Afternoon. Please welcome Aaron Dworkin.
I made it. All right. Hello, everybody. Wow. It's weird to be in a position to both say welcome and thank you for having me at the same time. I'm Aaron Dworkin. I have the honor of being the CEO of National Summer Learning Association, and thank you for all of you for making it here. And I had a big adventure, and if you find me later at the bar, I'm happy to tell you how I got here. But I am very honored to be here, and we have a great, we've had a great conference so far, and we have a great session coming up. And I do want to just also say, the roads in Alabama are terrific. And I know we talk about education, but if anyone's friends with anyone in the transportation department, please tell them thank you, because I drove from Huntsville this morning and had a nice long ride. I want to thank Dr. Mackey. I want to thank Tracy and Felicia from both the Alabama State Department of Education and the Alabama Expanded Learning Alliance, who have done such a great job as partners and hosts with us. Can we just thank them one more time? And I would also just add, you know, at NSLA, we think of leadership not as defined by how many people you can get to follow you, but by how many leaders you can empower to lead themselves and to serve others. And so I and our board who is here, and I want to recognize them, if our board members can stand up for 1 second. We have a few here, Jim Quinn, Evan, Reggie Love. Reggie, let people know who you are there, all right? Please say hi to them. Thank you for being here. But leadership in many ways, again, is not about how many people you get to follow you, but how many leaders you could get to lead themselves and serve others. And I'm very, very proud of our staff at NSLA, our field consultants that lead our professional learning communities, and our partnership with Collaborative Communications, who, while I wasn't here, have all stepped up as amazing collaborative leaders and done such a great job to keep everything going. So I just want to thank all of them, so thank you. And, you know, I will have a chance to talk a little bit more later on, but I just want to also add, if any of you who have just shown up today are wondering how you ended up in Fairhope, Alabama, and what you're going to do here, I think we've already shown a lot of people why we're here. We're here, you are here, because as Christy was saying, you are a special gifted leader with an amazing track record and a huge national reputation, even if you're very local. And so everyone here who was invited was recommended, highly sought out to be here. So please feel good about that. We're glad that you are here. And also we're here to learn from each other, as we did in the Summer Solution Salons, and take that learning and share it forward. And finally, we're here to build relationships with each other. Everybody wants to have partnerships. Those partnerships start with relationships. Those relationships take time. This is a place and space for that time to build those relationships that will turn into partnerships that will serve millions more kids. So thank you for everything you're doing here. I look forward to spending time with all of you. I'd like to call it my colleague, Christy Rokicki, who's going to be our MC for the rest of this session.
Oh, good afternoon, friends. I heard all the sessions were amazing. The only gripe that I've gotten so far is like, why are these salons so short? So my apologies for that, but like we're here until Thursday, so keep the conversations going. It is my great pleasure to again MC this session and talk and introduce some fabulous leaders. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the why. I know there's some EDDs in the room, and I don't know if you've studied Edgar Schein in your educational journey, but we dig down and dig deep and like, why are we doing this? Why summer? Why now? You know, what do we want? I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. I want to raise my children to be productive citizens, to get jobs, to move out of my home and contribute to the world. And I think we want that for all of our kids. So summer and the why takes us to, okay, how do they move into the workplace? How do we look at how they're contributing to a thriving economy? How do we leverage summer? I was a working mom. I'm here because I had summer programs and my kids were safe and cared for so that I could do all the things during these summer months. So we are going to hear from some fabulous people with amazing ideas and brilliant suggestions and bringing in some cross-sector leaders. I am thrilled to introduce Emily Dickens, who is going to be joining us. She's going to be talking about leveraging summer to support working families and, again, growing the talent pipeline. Emily and Sherm, she represents Sherm. She's the Chief Administrative Officer. This is a new partnership for NSLA. SHRM is doing amazing work with their E Squared initiative. I actually found out about it. My husband works in human resources and was at their national conference in June and was sending screenshots of Emily like, Christy, you need to talk to these people. Christy, you need to reach out to these people. They're doing so much work. You should be aligned. And I sent a LinkedIn message to Emily and I said, I'm seeing what you're doing. I'm reading about this. How can we bring this summer learning community together to partner with you and to be part of the solution, again, to bring our kids into the full human, whole wonderful beings that we know they can be. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Emily and we'll bring her in.
Well, good afternoon. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. And I know we're waiting for slides to come up on the screen. There we go. So I'm really excited to be here. I wished I could be there with you all in person, but it is absolutely a privilege to join you. And I want to thank Christy and Terry and the team for all of their support. So when we talk about leveraging summer to support working families and growing the talent pipeline, I kept thinking that when most people think of summer, their minds often go to sunshine, vacations, and a break from routine. I'm reminded of summers in Long Island, New York with my aunt and uncle, or in North Carolina with relatives there, giving my parents a breather from the three of us. I'm also reminded of summers working at Western Beef in College Point, Flushing at 15 while saving money for my sweet 16 birthday party. And then the summer I was an intern at the Javits Convention Center in the city, taking the F train each day to the city from Queens, where I thought I was so grown. But I know now that things are different. Without the familial connections, vacation Bible schools, and job opportunities that were usually just for kids, but now are held full time by adults year round, for working families, summer is often a workforce challenge, not a break. When schools close and childcare options diminish, parents are juggling schedules. They're working reduced hours, and they even leave the workforce entirely because they have no reliable place for their kids to be. And for young people, those school-free months can either be a moment of opportunity or a period of lost momentum. So I keep thinking at SHRM, the largest HR association in the world, 340,000 members, with a focus on talent and the pipeline and the workforce of the future. What if we worked with you and organizations like yours to reframe summer as a key workforce strategy? Not just a break from school, but as a bridge to skills, confidence, workforce participation, and a stronger talent pipeline. Next slide. So across industries and roles, employers are still struggling to recruit and retain talent. In SHRM's 2025 Talent Trends research, 69% of organizations reported continued challenges filling full-time positions, with too few applicants and tough competition across the labor market. At the same time, rapid changes in technology and workplace expectations mean employers increasingly need both technical competencies and what we are calling power skills: communication, adaptability, problem solving, and critical thinking skills that are harder to teach in a classroom alone. But if we aim to grow our workforce and meet this rising demand, we must sweep our view wider for formal hiring cycles and dive into the entry points of engagement, particularly summer. Next slide. So let's start with young people. Participating in summer jobs, internships, or career exploration isn't just about earning a paycheck. And what we've learned at SHRM is that the pipelines that traditionally get our students into the workforce are busty, leaky, and broken. And we believe that there's a way to work with industry, education, and programs like yours so that untapped talent, that group of students who are 16 to 24, we call them opportunity youth, can find a way into the workforce for a career and to meet the needs of the future. We know that in the summer, that's often the first opportunity for young people to see themselves in a workplace, to discover interests, to learn expectations, to build confidence. Yet participation in summer jobs has been declining over time. In past SHRM reporting, teen labor force participation hovered at around 43% during summer months, a striking decline compared with prior generations of workers. And why does this matter? Well, failing engagement early in career pipelines can lead to a domino effect. Fewer young people exploring work environments, reduced early skill development, and ultimately a smaller pool of career-ready talent. When employers partner with young people early, they aren't just offering a job, they're building a future workforce. Next slide. So I mentioned these briefly before, but we talk a lot about skills like coding, analytics, and AI fluency, and they absolutely matter. But SHRM research, or power skills and the future of work, emphasizes that the human edge lies in capabilities like empathy, adaptability, critical thinking, and collaboration. These are the skills that make someone not just job ready, but career ready. And here's the key. Power skills are not downloaded in a single training session. They're developed through doing, through interaction, through real experience, through advanced interaction, not that other AI. Summer work and structured experiential learning give young people the chance to navigate expectations, collaborate with teammates, overcome challenges, and practice communication with adults in real contexts. These are the moments where power skills take root. So, let's be candid. Supporting families is not a nice to have, it's a strategic imperative for employers. And according to SHRM's top 5 workplace issues on the next slide, working caregivers face measurable challenges that affect their careers, finances, mental health, and physical health. When childcare isn't aligned with work schedules and parents are forced to make decisions that take them out of the workforce or keep them from progressing in their careers, everyone suffers. And when employers rethink how work and family responsibilities align through predictable scheduling, flexible shifts, partnerships with community summer programs, or employer-sponsored childcare options, everyone benefits. Caregivers stay attached to the workforce, employers retain talent, children stay engaged, and our broader talent pipeline strengthens. We often talk about fixing this education to employment pipeline, but summer gives us a real practical window to close that gap. Employer-aligned pathways are not abstract. They're designed experiences that connect learning directly with employer needs. And these aren't just internships, they're purposeful pathways. So consider employer-designed summer externships tied to real projects. Consider youth apprenticeships introduced during summer months. Consider partnerships with schools or nonprofits that offer structured experiences and programs that offer stipends or wages to remove barriers for young people who need income. Studies show that employers who intentionally offer internships do so because 80% see early career talent development as a key driver of why they invest in these programs in the first place. And when these experiences are thoughtfully executed, they often lead to conversion to full-time roles, increasing retention and reducing recruiting costs in the long run. That's a win-win. Young people gain real experience and employers grow the talent they actually need. So let's reframe the discussion. Next slide. Here's the challenge and the opportunity. What if we choose to see summer not as a pause, but as a strategic extension of our workforce ecosystem? What if every employer, large or small, used summer as a moment to support families, connect youth to meaningful work experiences, build power skills, and integrate emerging talent into employer pipelines? What if summer was not a year-end moment of relief, but a year-round strategy for growth? This is the future of work I believe in. And so here's a call to action to all of you and some steps that we all can take starting now. Design summer work experiences that are inclusive, paid, and accessible, not just developmental opportunities that reflect real workplace expectations. Partner with schools, community organizations, and policymakers to extend learning and workforce exposure beyond traditional classrooms. Invest in power skills through experiences, not just training modules. Give young people the chance to do work, not just hear about it. And lastly, support working families with flexible scheduling, predictable work hours, and caregiver-friendly policies that make workforce participation possible, not just aspirational. When we do this, when we don't just help families survive the summer, we help our economy thrive. We help employers build resilient talent pipelines. We help young people glimpse their own potential and find a path toward it. Summer is not a hiatus from productivity. Summer is one of our greatest opportunities to shape the workforce of tomorrow, and the time to act on it is now. Thank you.
Hi, Emily. I heard you miss, so again, the word of our forum is pivot, and we understand that you had a little bit of a technical glitch amidst some of the introduction where I was sharing with our friends in the room how I politely cyber-stalked you. Starting at the beginning of last summer when my husband was at your conference and was going through some of these presentations and hearing the new initiative, and I was like, oh my God, these are our people. These are our summer people. We can help with this. And here we are a year later and are so grateful to have you with us. And thank you for this. And we have an army of people in this room. We call them our Summer Learning Avengers. And these Avengers are ready to step up to the call and work with your network and make this reality possible for all of our young people. So thank you.
Thank you. It's a good thing I'm a Marvel wife and I know who Avengers are, right? So absolutely.
And Emily's husband, for all of you, because I've gotten the opportunity to meet her and work with her and do this, her husband is an educator as well. So I think he's home, you said today as well, because of the snow in DC?
He is, he's home. So I'll get the critique after this is over.
Well, 10 out of 10 here in the room. Thank you for being so flexible. Thank you for pivoting. Thank you for this amazing presentation, and we look forward to continuing the conversation and bringing all of our partners into this work with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm super excited to introduce again, some new friends. I love my job. I think I've told you guys how much I love my job, and I'm going to say this all day, every day, because I get to work with such incredible people. But we are going to call some folks to the stage now to really share how summer can then become an engine of economic mobility, how it can continue to help young people build these skills, but also while helping families stay in the workforce. So we're going to hear from my dear friend Kevin Fudge at Brightbound, Shelly Travis from Skills USA, and Victoria Adams Phipps, who's head of philanthropy for JP Morgan, and they're going to share some of their strategies, tools, and techniques. So without further ado, we're going to bring Kevin to the stage.
Thank you. Got me? Oh, great. Excellent. I was told not to turn my head. I like to look at everybody, but whoa, feedback. Go back up a little bit. And clearly, I'm a superhero guy, not a Marvel DC guy, but I acknowledge that Marvel makes the better movies. It's good, but DC is catching up. Superman was good this summer. But yeah, my name is Kevin Fudge. I'm the Director of Advocacy at Brightbound. We're a national nonprofit based in Boston, Mass. We are a purple unicorn of a nonprofit, which means we have $1.5 billion with a B. So I don't operate like a traditional nonprofit. I'm part of the social impact team. So we do research, we do grant making, about $20 million a year, and we do policy and advocacy, of which I'm the director. So I come to this work with the idea that career exploration, one of the gentlemen up on stage this morning mentioned it, starts as early as middle school. Okay, so we're talking about, if we talk about a continuum from like exploration in middle school to experimentation in high school to then navigation to high school and beyond, it's really a long path. And it's very, very important that we invest and start early. And summer is a prime opportunity to do that. So I like to talk in rules of three, so I want you to take away three things. I'm going to say a lot of things in between, but what I want you to walk away with these three things. One, embrace the variety of career-connected learning opportunities that young people can have during summers. I'll explain what that means in a minute. Two, understand the challenges and work to address the barriers to career-connected learning. That would be my phone. It might be my wife. You can just hit, yeah. It's lovely. She's having some car issues. We worked it out. 23 years of marriage, it's total bliss, I'm going to tell you. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There are a couple of years that are clunkers thrown in, but, you know, all good, all good. Love my wife to pieces. So understanding these challenges and addressing them. The third thing that I want you to walk away with is this idea of shared experiences and the translation in why we need to communicate to the multiple stakeholders that are invested in youth development, why it's important to the translational language, like the language that we're speaking about, taking advantage of summer learning, and the shared experience, and I'll explain that later too. So first, when I talk about the variety of experiences, work-based learning, career-connected learning opportunities can exist in a career day, a fair. It can exist in a, you know what, turn it off, thanks. Appreciate you. I should have done that before I came up, anyway. So career-connected learning experiences can happen through just a career fair. Obviously, an internship is ideal. ASA, we've done research. We found that 5 years ago, of roughly 30% of companies had internships for college and high school students. That number bumped up to 38% recently, but only 5% of organizations have them specifically designed for high school students. That we need to work on and need to change. But the idea is helping young people believe and see what they could become, right? You can't be what you can't see. And by even exposure to a young person about what opportunities might be available within industries. In my salon session, I mentioned that somebody may not like sports at all, but they could like art. And so there's graphics, there's design, there's marketing. There's many different roles within different careers, but young people will never be exposed to them if we don't create those opportunities and pathways with employer partnerships. So embrace the variety. Two, understanding the barriers, right? So transportation is a huge one, okay? Addressing the transportation barrier. Finding suitable work for young people to do, right? And then the third thing is who's gonna manage them? Who's gonna be responsible for the young people when they're on site? But one thing that I've done in my work on barnstorming the country and trying to convince more employers to get on board with this concept is that this is not just a talent pipeline development strategy where you're looking to recruit the next generation of workers. This is also a retention strategy for your employees that are already current on site to remain engaged and see you living out the values that you say your company has, right? So when you give people who are in non-management positions leadership opportunities to engage with youth on project-based learning or summer internships and things like that, you're creating leadership opportunities for them and keeping them motivated to stay at those organizations. So we've done research to find that you can actually use this as a retention tool if you're explaining to employers why should they get on board with having young people on their work site. Because let's be honest, this is probably the, if it's ever present in our minds, it's probably like the 20 or 25th thing that somebody at another employer is thinking about is how am I gonna get more youth or how am I gonna recruit more young people to participate in some summer program. So oftentimes you have to spell it out. So addressing those challenges and building coalitions to work on them, that's a huge part. And the shared experience part about this, I wanna really stress, we've done research to identify that 90% of middle schoolers want some kind of opportunities to learn more about careers. And if they're not able to do that in the traditional school year, they can do that during summer. We've also done a look-back study in research to say that 74% of high school students said that they wish they had something in middle school during the summer, during the year, that allowed them to explore different types of career opportunities. So we know that the need is there, but trying to connect that desire from the students, the demand to meet the supply isn't always there. So what are we doing? How are we being more intentional about creating that supply? And why do I talk about shared experiences? Because as a child of the 80s, okay, don't let my boyish looks fool you, I'm gonna be 52 in a few months, right? I grew up my gray so I could have a little gravitas speaking up here. But my shared experience as a kid, like going to the movies and seeing E.T. in the theater, having Reese's Pieces. Well, you know, those of you elder millennials that may not have seen E.T. don't know what I'm talking about. But Reese's Pieces were huge in the movie, right? It's not just about phoning home. But we don't have those kind of shared experiences. I mean, the third most popular, you know, show ever watched was MASH. You know, like MASH to an elder millennial, what is MASH? You know, why would I watch that with like 182 million other people? But why I say shared experiences is because even though employers and people who may not be invested in summer learning for young people may not work in it on a daily basis, they can understand the concept of human potential, of developing you know, the workforce tomorrow, as our previous speaker mentioned. And so by finding some translational language to communicate with the affected constituents, then we can come to a place where we're all working towards the same goal. Right? So at Brightbound, we created like a menu of options for employers to figure out where they can plug into this work. And we also created a translational guide so that community-based organizations, K-12 systems, and employers can figure out, like, where does the conversation begin? How do we continue the conversation? How do we include some of our partners in rural areas or in hard-to-get areas that may not have a wealth of organizations that exist within those jurisdictions, right? So finding a way to create a shared experience is so very important because we all want to see young people thrive, realize their potential, and be what they can be. And so it starts with those elements. And I just encourage you, you know, we are all about supporting people, boots on the ground that are doing the work. Like, yes, I'm you know, on the 21st floor sometimes talking to executives about this, but I'm always specifically engaged with the folks that are boots on the ground, that are doing the work. It's important to be an active listener in these spaces and not just being the one doing the talking. So I'm gonna yield the floor. I'll just say to remember though, a variety of work-based learning experiences. Okay, there's not a one-size-fits-all, okay? Let's work together to identify the barriers, transportation, suitable work, who's gonna manage the students, and figure out collective solutions. And then 3, find ways to create shared experiences among the school systems, the employers, the young people themselves, and engage the parents in realizing the value of how summer plays into all this. So thanks for your time, and have a great rest of the conference.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Shelley Travis. I'm Skills USA's Executive Director, and I am new to this conference, so I'd like to say thank you first to Aaron for inviting me. Skills USA is new to the summer space, so I want to start off with a question first before I get started. How many of you know what Skills USA is? Quite a few. Okay, for those of you that don't know about Skills USA, I want to introduce us first, and then I'll go into a few things about summer learning and specifically about our talent pipeline. So Skills USA is the #1 workforce development organization for students. We serve over 444,000 students and teachers nationwide in over 130 different occupational programs. Everything from 3D animation and design to welding to literally everything in between. And we do this through the Skills USA Career Ready Framework. And as my friends from SHRM and others were speaking about earlier, it is literally that blueprint for everything and all of the programming with Skills USA, everything that we do. It is those skills that we hear from our employer partners that students need and entry-level workers, but most of the workforce is lacking today, from teamwork to adaptability, as we were talking about earlier, critical thinking and decision-making skills. So it is actually the blueprint of everything we do at Skills USA. We took over 1,000 business and industry partners to design the Skills USA framework. And actually, SHRM was part of that experiment as well. So when we look at summer learning, and so what I'd like to share with you today is how Skills USA actually feeds into that, as well as some things that you can do as well. The first thing that I would like to introduce is making summer the summer of skill building. So earlier I heard someone say we need to normalize summer learning and actually invest in that. And so what I would like for us to consider is actually normalizing, introducing students into career exploration and work-based learning opportunities. Age appropriate, we heard this earlier. Skills USA has a career-ready model and also a work-based learning model that takes students as early as elementary school. Really, we focus on the middle school, high school, and college post-secondary markets, but all the way from middle school into the workforce and beyond. So in age-appropriate ways. So when we think about summer learning, think about not just the pre-apprenticeships and the internship opportunities, but those other things that are so important. Site visits for business and industry, speakers, actually things where you can have hands-on experiences. Remake Learning Days is one very nice example where we take elementary school students and we actually have them do projects. One thing that I used to lead was a construction camp for girls in the summer. So not taking joy, introducing and career exploration does not take joy away from the summer learning. I've heard that throughout this conference, that is such an important part of summer learning is the joy, but it actually feeds into it and sets them up for success because they see that they can be confident in this and that they can achieve their goals. The other thing with age appropriate that I would say that was so important is that we know from our research, not only is it important for students to see themselves in careers, but by the age of 12 or as they are exiting the 8th grade, most students don't necessarily know what they want to be, but they've already ruled out many of the careers that I serve at Skills USA. Because if they cannot see it, they don't know how they can be it. And so I think that's why work-based learning opportunities, career exploration is so important. One other thing I'd like to bring into this as our summer of skill building is also a resource that we have at Skills USA. I heard Dr. Mackey talking about one of the things that he was concerned about was actually being able to bring business and industry and those opportunities to students. We have removed that barrier at Skills USA through something called Skills USA Pathful. Every Skills USA member has the opportunity through virtual experiences, so it doesn't matter where you are located or the socioeconomics of your area. You can not only participate in career-based learning and exploration activities, but you can interact with our business and industry partners from around the country through one-on-one conversations that we bring in to the summer learning experience or into the classroom through panels and other opportunities to get hands-on experience from what might not be in your area. I grew up in Middle Tennessee, not far from here, not far from Florence, Alabama. Actually, 68 people I graduated with, and I didn't have the opportunity. My mother was a teacher, my father was a postmaster, and also a machinist. But I only knew about the careers that were in my local area. This actually brings those careers and those opportunities directly to them so that they can see it and they can be it. And also, I'd encourage you about competition in the summer. Summer competition is really important. You're talking about bringing joy. You can bring the hands-on experience actually through competition. Students gain confidence and skills, and then they see those rewarded. So number one, let's commit to summer being not only a summer of learning, but a summer of skill building. Number two, I would like to say that you should advocate for paid experiences. So I talked about middle school and also elementary school, but for our high school students and our older learners, let's advocate for that so that we can actually help the family and provide transportation. So those that not only pay, but provide transportation opportunities to those students. And then I would say, three, that we need to ensure quality. Quality is so important. So it's not the summer learning and the internship or the pre-apprenticeship program that is just fast food. And we're just learning. We do learn wonderful. I was in retail. I worked for Walmart, customer service. They put me there because they thought no one could be mad at me. I had a good smile for the summer, right? So, and that worked out very well. But also, so we have quality. We have a framework, like the Skills USA Career Ready framework, but a framework for that learning. And then also, you are including micro-credentials or other things within that. Within the Construction Ready platform, we actually gave those middle school, high school, and college post-secondary students the opportunity to earn a micro-credential, a certificate, and then receive recognition at the end of the day. OSHA 10 is something that's very easy for those students to actually receive. Have interviews on site as well when we're talking about mock interviews and also resume building as well. I see a lot of resumes coming from students in great classrooms across the US, but knowing how to put together a resume to beat business and industry needs, and I think that's why that Career Ready framework of Skills USA is so important. It not only gives the skills, it builds our programs that we embed those skills into with hands-on learning, but it also gives them a language. Because if they can see it, be it, they have to be able to tell their story. So quality to prepare those students as well. And then finally, creating that strong employer pipeline. Summer, I want to, going directly into an apprenticeship program for an employer can be very difficult. However, as we were talking about at our table last night, summer is actually a low risk, but can be a very high reward. We were hearing about forming community and those community partners. Volunteering and giving back to students there's no greater way to regain the joy in your career as it is to transfer it to someone else. So, and it's very low risk and low cost for our employers. So I would encourage you to consider summer as the summer of skill building as you look into the future. And lastly, I don't think we have the slide because I am a very last minute ad, but I want to invite you all to go to skillsusa.org. You can learn more about our programming, the Skills USA framework, work-based learning, as well as what I would like to introduce you all to, the Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference. It is my summer experience that I hold every year. This year is 3 weeks earlier, June 1st through the 5th in Atlanta, Georgia. And there we will have over 19,000 attendees on the largest showcase of skilled talent literally in the world. We have over 6,800 competitors that are from middle school, high school, college, post-secondary institutions that are all competing in their skill areas and in leadership and occupational skills as well. And they have the opportunity not only to compete and showcase their skills, but to learn, and through our Texpo and through opportunities to receive professional development for our instructors, but then also for those students to receive certification. So you're not only competing and potentially winning a medal and some really cool prizes, but you're also using that competition as a work-based learning and as a workforce development tool. So I would like to invite you all to the conversation. We will have a workforce development summit on that Thursday, if you can only come one day, where we will bring together thought leaders just like yourself within this space. So thank you for what you're doing now and what I know you will do in the future for our future workforce. Thank you.
certainly hard to follow that up. Can y'all hear me all right? All right, perfect. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much to the National Summer Learning Association for curating this incredible event. It's an honor to be here with so many friends and friends I have yet to meet. If you fall in that latter category, my name is Victoria Adams-Phipps. I'm the Vice President of Global Philanthropy at JPMorgan Chase. And I have had the distinct pleasure of spending a significant amount of time in the great state of Alabama. It's wonderful to be back. This conference was incredibly well-timed and personally exciting for me because just last week we announced our very first Careers and Skills investment in the state. Shout out to Chandra Scott. I know she's in the room somewhere with Alabama Possible, but $350,000 to advance careers relative to advanced manufacturing in energy, specific to college students here in Alabama. So excited to get that work off the ground. It also just so happens that this morning was summer camp sign up for my son. So summer is very much so top of mind for me today. But during yesterday's opening plenary, I heard the speakers touch on quality and coordination as two things that are of the utmost importance in driving strong outcomes. And I couldn't agree more. But I would also argue that there's one additional component that's critical in driving outcomes, and that's really intention. It's the intention guiding the program that ultimately makes a difference, and for me, that intention needs to be economic mobility. Since 2013, JPMorgan Chase has invested $37 million in summer youth employment programs. In 2023 alone, that was 25 programs supporting paid work experiences for 25,000 students. So that's really the frame that I'm channeling in this morning's conversation. Through these investments, we've learned that summer youth employment programs aren't just about youth engagement. They're certainly not just about keeping school children busy in between school years. Summer programs present a gateway. They are a gateway to belonging. They're a gateway to skill development and real long-term economic mobility. In our most successful programs, we find three things: connection, consistency, and community. On connection, strong programs, of course, connect youth to real career pathways, but these are not just seasonal jobs or internships. These are programs that are designed to provide early career exposure to professional environments and skills, but clear connections to long-term career opportunity. These high-quality connections can occur when summer experiences are intentionally aligned to industry-recognized skills, mentorship, and post-summer opportunities that allow young people to keep moving along a defined pathway. On consistency, the strongest models are consistent in their approach. They refine and, yes, pivot, as we talked about earlier, when necessary, but they adhere to a consistent model that yields quality year over year, time over time. They're not chasing the shiny new thing. And as the person representing philanthropy, I can say they're not chasing the shiny new thing even when funding comes along with it. We consider consistency in the model, and we also consider consistency in the experience of that young person. While summer is the place where the magic happens, we see the cultivation of year-round partnerships as essential in driving that impact. I heard echoes of this in this morning's conversation from the phenomenal team who's doing great work here in Alabama. Kudos to all of you. The community-based organizations, the churches, the YMCAs, the Boys and Girls Clubs, those coaches, those mentors, the caseworkers, these are the ones who can provide a consistent relationship and strong advocacy to encourage continued skill building and growth. And last but certainly not least, community. The most successful programs are leveraging the strengths of their community to drive results. This means not prioritizing the hot job that every community wants to see land in their neighborhood, but actually prioritizing the industries and employers that are showing strength right in your own community. What does a quality job look like in Baldwin County, Alabama, or North St. Louis, or the Bronx in New York? We all have strengths, and we need to be leveraging them. We have to look to the places where our sectors and employers are growing so we can grow alongside them. It also means being real about the challenges of our communities: transportation, mental health, food insecurity, housing. These are the factors that impact our young people and their families. The best programs are surgical in mapping models that leverage strengths and mitigate challenges with young people and working families at the center. With these three components present, we find that organizations are able to be targeted in their approach, honing in on local context to produce data-informed and resource-rich programs that provide durable pathways to economic mobility long-term. Economic mobility is something that should be within reach for every young person and every family. It's up to us to do the work to make it so.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. You can see our new friends, so talented. This is fantastic. And I'm taking lots of notes on all of these ideas and all the work that we need to do beyond the forum. So I'm very excited to introduce our next panel. We've heard from educators, we've heard from community partners, we've heard from workforce, we have some libraries in the room, and Victoria just talk about philanthropy. I'm very excited to introduce to the stage huge fans. A lot of my work for NSLA winds up being around philanthropy and development. I have been following the work of Nicole and Kristen for years now. They're going to be in a conversation and talking about this big bet that we have here in this room. How do we close the opportunity gap? How do we serve all these kids? And the role that philanthropy can play. So welcome to the stage. We're so excited to hear you. And I'm going to get off now because I got to be on the prep call with them, and they have much to say.
I'm not going to set my alarm or have it thing go off, but I'll track time, and we have time, I think, here. Hi, everyone. How are you? We're very happy to be here with everyone, and I just want to say, as a proud parent of a University of Alabama student, roll Tide. Oh, that is so beautiful. I really love that. I'm Nicole. I'm with Grantmakers for Education. I'm here with Kristen, who's with Lover of Change. For change, right? For change. At Grantmakers for Education, we organize, we engage funders nationally, but of all sites and spaces and types, all sorts of approaches. Every few years, we survey education funders, and I just want to share that in the most recent survey done last year, we see increasing numbers of funders who are reporting investments in out-of-school time, including summer. However, when we look at data that we don't collect, but that Candid collects and analyzes, what we actually see is a kind of this trend line up of investments of out-of-school time, including summer. But over the last 5 years, it's been like bobbing up and down. And then what we actually see, though, in those investments, even though it's trending upward, is that a lot of the focus is on programs and projects, not systems or scale. So what we're here to have some conversation about with you all today is how we get to scale. Enough of hearing me. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen. I've got a couple of questions. If we have some time, we'll maybe open it up for a question or two, and then that will be our time with you today. Cool? Awesome. So we're jumping right in. My first question to Kristen. First of all, introduce yourself and say anything you want to say, but also, please address this question. What is most important as we think about scaling innovation? We've talked about the why. You all have talked about the why today. You heard from young people who kind of, I think, helped anchor that for you all earlier today. But from your perspective, what are the non-negotiables? What are the kind of parameters and conditions that are important? And how do you recommend that these folks are engaging with funders to be able to actualize some of that how?
Sure. So thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be here and be back in the South. I used to live in Tallahassee, Florida. So I'll say go Seminoles for anybody that might be out there. So Lever for Change is an organization that works with funders to help them deploy large amounts of capital. And essentially we were created and founded by the MacArthur Foundation with the idea of knowing there's a lot of funders out there who are looking for ways to deploy capital, but they don't want to start a foundation. They don't want to staff up. They have a small family office, a few advisors, and they're not looking to do a large team. And so how can we help them find organizations and fund and deploy capital at large amounts to get that money off the sideline? So that's what we do. We work with funders. We design open calls specifically so that we can have a fair, equitable process of finding organizations, not who I happen to sit next to at a gala, but instead, have an equitable process where it's an even playing field for everybody who applies to get funding. And so that's what we do. And so we help funders make investments of $20 million or more in organizations that are doing any kind of social impact work that they might be focused on. Education related, climate change related, democracy related, anything you can imagine that people fund, we help them fund and deploy that capital. So we work with a lot of funders, and we work with a lot of organizations that are looking to put that money to work. And I think that what's important about what funders are looking for and how funders are operating, at least in many of the conversations that we're having, is that they really are looking for impact. They are looking for organizations that are really thinking at a systems level and thinking, how does their work plug in? And they're really looking for organizations that understand the ecosystem of what is happening and how they are operating. So I think some of the advice that I would have is that organizations really do need to better understand the ecosystem sometimes. We always ask in our application, who else in your community is doing this work, or who else out there is doing similar work to what you're doing? How are you thinking about partnership with those organizations so that not everybody's having to recreate the wheel and stand up different departments and do different programming, but rather are partnering together? Like, your organization has this expertise, ours has this. How do we come together and do this work together? And I think funders, that really resonates, right? That organizations are not trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink and do it all, but that they're really thinking strategically about what is our North Star, what is it that we are good at as an organization, how can we tell that story succinctly and well, and then how can we move towards impact together. And I do think that organizations who are able to tell their story in a clear and succinct way, look, we're talking about a lot of new funders coming online that are venture capitalists. They've made their money in the financial market. They don't want to hear a 30-minute long story about why the work is important, even though we all care about why the work is important. As a former teacher, I care about kids learning. We all care about those things. But being able to pivot and tell your story in a way that some of these funders are looking for, in short, succinct bullet points, what are the 2 or 3 points of impact that you have? How does your impact feed a larger narrative? Is really, really critical. So I'll pause it. I think you may have asked me something else and I may have forgotten.
Well, actually, let me ask this question, and it's going to build on what you were just saying. So when we're thinking about these summer solutions for complex issues, sometimes it can be really hard to tell a clear, succinct story, right? And kind of offer this narrative. So what can you offer to this group of leaders here about how to do that, how to kind of capture these complex issues that are so interdependent, that there's lots of uncertainty, et cetera, with the North Star, with the narrative, with the why? How do we kind of navigate those two spaces coexisting?
I think that's a good question, and probably we're all trying to still figure that out. And I will say, even as an organization, we have that same struggle, right? What does this donor want to hear or funder want to hear? What does this client want to hear? How do we bridge that gap? I think what's important is thinking about who in your network are your advocates, who in your network can provide different points of view on what your story is, and then how can you use those advocates to say, hey, we want to bounce this idea out for you. We're realizing that this narrative doesn't seem to be resonating, or we're not getting our point across. Will you sit with us and give us some feedback on how we're telling this narrative? And trying to really use the people in your network that are advocates, whether that's your board members, whether that's your for us past clients, whether that's funders in your network that you just happen to have a very long relationship with, right? Where they can provide that level of insight into what does or doesn't resonate. What resonates with funders that are West Coast funders might be very different than New York City funders, right? Or funders that are based here in Alabama. So really thinking about how you can take your narrative, and again, I think the other important thing is having real conversations with funders about where you are as an organization, what you can do and what you're not going to do is really important. I think we are all heading into a very different space around fundraising. Like I said, it's becoming less opaque, not more opaque. Funders are putting their money into donor-advised funds. It's not clear if, when, how they want to deploy that money. They don't have staff that you can meet places, right? So it's becoming more difficult, not easier, with all the technology and everything else that we have at our disposal to find people who might be interested in the work that you do. So I think that, you know, really thinking about how you can think about tailoring your message to these different clients, but without losing your North Star. Because what I've often seen in education in particular, and I used to be on the, you know, I was running education programs for the MacArthur Foundation, is that so many organizations would get caught up in, oh, well, this, you know, so-and-so foundation's gonna give us a grant, but now we have to add this whole other program, and now we're gonna be doing different things, but it's gonna somehow relate back to like our summer program or, you know, our after-school program. And then you're just spreading yourself so thin, and often they're not funding it at the level that they need to really be able to pay for it. So I think having those real conversations, you know, we talk about trust-based philanthropy, and trust-based philanthropy needs to be funders stepping into that space to have the conversations with organizations, but organizations also have to be fearless enough to step into that space and say, that's not something we can do. You know what, we have a partner down the road who can do that work really, really well, but we can't start a new program for the money that you're offering us. And I had a friend of mine who was proposing something to the Lego Foundation at one point in time. And they were like, yeah, we want to do that, but we're going to do it for, you know, we want you to do it for 3 years, and we're going to give you half the amount of money. And she said, you know, we can do this with joy and love and care and thoughtfulness, or we could all be miserable trying to do this in the timeline with the money that you want us to do. And like, we're just not going to do that. And I do think it requires a bit of fearlessness to step into that space and start being honest about what it takes to do the work.
Okay, burning question. Okay, I think you might have to.
Want to throw it.
That variation is occurring, the sensitivity to the differences are occurring within organizations and across the field, maybe so much so that one might say they're fractured or siloed, and maybe the challenge actually is to bring them together better.
I don't know who the culprit is here, but this microphone. Yes, and I don't know if this would resonate with you. You know, as a former person in the education space a lot, I'm a little bit more removed now, but I know that education funding has, you know, there's been a lot of big players that have slowly kind of weeded out over time, especially for international education, which that's where my career was. And I will say that we have very few conversations with funders who that is their primary focus: education, adolescents. If it is adolescents, it's typically maybe mental health, maybe economic mobility, right? So jobs and things like that. So I do think thinking about how this work ties to economic mobility and jobs, which we just heard two great speakers talk on that issue in particular, and how, and mental health in particular, I think are going to be key. That's the trend that I'm seeing, that there is a lot of funders in particular around youth mental health, adolescent mental health, that are starting to come online. And I think that this kind of work, it feeds directly into that. I think that everybody right now is also just trying to figure out what to do, right? Last year, or this past year, we know everybody just kind of paused and what's gonna happen. We're seeing folks come back online and trying to figure out, okay, where is our money really gonna go the distance? And I'm not sure that folks have got it figured out yet. That might be not a very great answer. Yeah.
Everybody's afraid of the microphone. You can just yell it.
I'll give you one more chance for a burning question if you have in a second, but we're going to do a quick speed round. Let's see if the mic is working too. Yes?
Okay.
Success.
All right, we're back.
This might work better. Okay, we're going to do a quick, rapid round where Kristen's going to finish some sentences with us. So, and this is really about kind of what you see as some of the commitments that are needed across kind of a full range of stakeholders. So we're talking about kind of sensibility and some of the connective tissue that you're able to kind of offer or even serve as. But there's a whole set of other conditions that you don't control, of course. And so we're thinking about kind of the universal set of commitments across stakeholders, just to kind of tee that up. Okay, finish these sentences. To get to nationwide scale, we must agree on or to
Fail. We have to fail. We have to fail fast. We have to learn, and we need to pivot. And we need to get funders to understand the importance of failure, failing fast, learning, and pivot. And we all need to be honest about what that is.
To get to nationwide scale, we must stop or give up.
We must give up going it alone. We have to do it in partnership. We need to find local, which, I mean, the panels this morning were fantastic, right? Community-based organizations, local government, school boards, et cetera, right? Having partnership is what is going to lead to success. We have to stop building the perfect little pilot in our community that fits everybody's need in that one little community, but is not financially stable to scale because it's just not supportable.
And then to get to nationwide scale, one lever, no pun intended, I guess, but maybe I did when I wrote that should be moved in the next 12 months to accelerate it is?
I think a very clear statement that is, this is what the promise is. This is what we can do. This is the impact that we have in a clear, succinct statement. I'll give you another great example. In international education, this was a long time ago, we gave Brookings Institute some money to work on learning outcomes and predicting learning outcomes. And folks at the Brookings Institute came out of this meeting just on, can we agree on one global indicator of literacy, in tears, because the amount of aggression, anger, volatility about just trying to decide on what does it mean that somebody can read had devolved into chaos. And I'm like, this is insanity in the education sector. Like, we should not be fighting over this, right? Like, this is just like such a waste of time in terms of actually moving the needle on impact. So having a clear, succinct, this is what our impact is going to be, and this is how we get there. I think I think funders hunger for that. I think everybody isn't hungry for that. And we've got to make it simple, even though we know it's a complex issue, but we've got to have a narrative that people can understand where they see themselves fitting into that narrative.
So I think we spoke fast to try to get a lot into our time that we had to be in front and with all of you. And I think that's actually the perfect way to end. There is no illusion that the how of it all is as quick or as simple as we try to kind of present it here for the purpose of this conversation. And we're grateful to all of you for all the incredible work that you do. But if you take nothing away, I think those kind of non-negotiables that will really help you educate your funders around how to move from these kind of pilots and programs to that greater impact that you and they are collectively seeking are really, really key. So thank you, Kristen, for being with us today, and thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Oh my God. Thank you, Nicole. I have to say, as I'm calling our friend Jeff Norris, thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate you. You'll hear more from Aaron, and you'll hear more from our amazing board and how we've been, working for over a year and how this ties into our strategic plan leader. But I just want to acknowledge, again, anytime, we're thinking about who should be in this room and we picked up a phone and said, hey, so this is what we're working on, and will you come to Fairhope, Alabama with us? It's yeses and yeses and yeses in short amounts of time and getting here. So I just want to continue to acknowledge and say thank you so much for coming and being part of this conversation. I'm going to call my friend Jeff Norris up real quick for a quick and exciting announcement.
Just for that. Whether you realized it or not, when you decided to come to this conference, you became a part of the Alabama family and the NSLA family, and so I felt like it was time for a quick family meeting, if y'all are okay with that. I put on my dad hat. Prior to being in this position at the State Department of Education, I was actually named the 2024 Alabama State Teacher of the Year. Thank you. And I really believe in the power of teachers and teacher leadership, and so I actually invited 2 other State Teachers of the Year to this conference with me, and so I wanted to take a second to recognize them and let you recognize them for their accomplishments and also for all they add to this gathering. So first, I want to add, and she's going to be very embarrassed, Ann Dominic was the 1999 Alabama State Teacher of the Year. You have to stand up. Thank you. She actually works in our Office of Mathematics Improvement now, but before that, a few years ago, she was the 4th grade teacher of our 2026 Alabama Teacher of the Year, Katie Collins, who is sitting right next to her. Katie teaches 1st grade in Hoover, Alabama. And just like any good family meeting, I have to let you in on a quick little family secret. So prior to lunch, literally like 1 hour ago, Dr. Mackey was about to jet out, but he pulled in all of the Alabama people, our Alabama family people, to a small room, and he let us in on this really big secret along with Katie. She is actually one of the 5 National Teacher of the Year finalists for 2026. So stand up again. We want to recognize you if you'll join in. We're so proud of you. You've got 200 other family members supporting you now, so you go get it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, congratulations. Well, this concludes our lunch plenary. So it's time for housekeeping, a few quick things. We have salons, more salons. I'm sorry about the time. The time is what it is. Get all the things in and continue the conversation. After the salons, we're modeling summer learning, and we have some really fun activities. There's Mahjong and more. There's a laugh lab and an improv workshop with our friend Julia Gabor, who's in the room. The driving range is open. So I encourage you, go out, connect, go to salons. Remember, we're recording. It's our declaration of summer that we're gonna document and move forward. go to the connect, enjoy, and then we're going to be back here in this room later tonight for our Summer Learning Awards and dinner and all the things. If you need any help, find an NSLA staff member, but thank you again and enjoy.